Hi there, my name's Annette. Sunbeam Fabric Art is my channel. Welcome. Today is part 3 of my adding machine tape series. So in my previous 2 videos, the first one we made adding machine tape strips of scraps. In the second one we finished a quilt top. And today, in the third one, I am going to take the bonus blocks that I came up with, and I ended up with 8 bonus blocks, and here they are. We are going to make those into a cute little tote bag, adding some houndstooth fabric. So come along with me and I'll show you what I did. So I wanted to show you kind of how I drew this out. My measurements will be different from yours. It just depends on what you're going to make this tote bag out of, whether you have 4 blocks or 6 blocks, or maybe your blocks are smaller or bigger. Maybe you want your bag to be bigger. The wider this middle piece is, the bigger your tote bag will be. So what we have here, in my case, I have 4 blocks for each side of the bag, the front and the back. Those are my finished blocks. Those were my bonus blocks. For the houndstooth, I'm using houndstooth everywhere. Of this pink, I'm going to sew a block to a pink strip to a block to a pink strip to a block to a pink strip to a block to this pink strip to a block. And keep in mind I'm saying pink, I just mean this size, the pink size. So I need 4 of those. I'm going to need 4 of this position, this pink position. Then to do these rows, I'm going to need 2 strips. Then to join the front and the back of the bag, I'm going to need 1 large piece. Then to make my sides of my bag, I'm going to need 4 of whatever size I choose of this green. So the first thing I had to do was cut some strips out of my houndstooth fabric. For the strips going through the middle of the bag, I cut 2-inch strips. Those were going to finish to 1.5. And then for the sides of my bag, I wanted them to be 2.5 inches wide. I did consult my little map frequently and continued cutting until I had my finished pieces. My first step was to sew rows together, and those rows consisted of 1 finished block, 1 short 2-inch strip, and another block. Once those rows were done, then I had to join 2 rows together with a longer 2-inch strip. And here you can see when joining the top and the bottom of the front or the back side of my bag, I did line these up so that my strips would match up. I folded over and I clipped and I made sure those were going to match up before I stitched it down. Once I had the initial 2 clips in to match, then I did clip the rest of that stitch line because that is such a big block, it really needs to be held in place before taking it to the sewing machine. My next step was to sew the sides on the front and the back of my bag. And the last thing I did here was to sew the piece that was going to be the bottom. I used that to join the front and the back of my bag. And I decided to use regular quilt batting for this, to quilt this bag. So I laid the front of the bag down on the batting and smoothed it out. Then I added my lining to the back and I smoothed it out. Then I pinned in a couple of places, mostly on the houndstooth lines, to hold it all together. Once I trimmed the excess off of this bag, I just took it to the sewing machine. I decided to just do straight line quilting on either side of some vertical seam lines. With the quilting all done, I wanted to get my straps prepared. I'll leave a link in my description to this nylon strapping that I used. Now my straps are actually going to be going on the inside of my bag so they don't obstruct my cute little blocks, but I'm taking some measurements on the front of the bag so I know where to place them on the inside of the bag. Okay, the next thing I did was to trim all the way around the outside of my bag, and then I trimmed my little cutout at the bottom of my bag that will be for my boxed seams on the bottom of my bag. With all that trimming done, I flipped the bag over and I placed my straps according to my measurements. So just an important reminder, don't sew your strap all the way to the top of your bag. Leave about 1.5 inches or 2 inches that you do not sew, because we'll need that out of the way to finish the top of our bag. Once I had that done, I pinned my straps out of my way. Then I put my bag together with the right side on the outside, and I pinned up the sides and I stitched down the sides. And what we're doing here is called a French seam. I'm going to flip this bag inside out. And once the lining is on the outside, we'll do the exact same thing. We will pin down the sides and stitch down the side, being careful to enclose the previous seam. I am going to leave a link in my description on the video that I did on making this tote bag that includes a way more detailed description of doing these boxed corners that I'm doing here. We're using this French seam technique to avoid having to do any finishing on the inside of the bag. With the bag done, I needed to make a 2.5 inch wide binding, so I sewed some strips together to get it long enough to go all the way around the top of my bag. Then I pressed it in half. Once that was pressed, I wanted to show you an easy way that I use to join my ends of my binding together. I fold down a triangle at the end of my binding, then fold it back in half. Then I pin that to my bag, pinning that to the top of my bag, kind of holding everything in place. I will be leaving that first 5 inches or so unstitched and just hold it to the bag with some pins. Then when I get all the way around the top of my bag, I'm going to be able to tuck my tail in under that fold. So that'll be very nice. I won't have to stitch anything together. I can just tuck it in, stitch it down, flip it over, and I'll be good. Once I had that clipped into place, I went ahead and started sewing my binding to the top of my bag, and I'm sewing it first to the inside of my bag. And here you can see I've reached the end of my binding. I'm going to trim that off diagonally, and it will just tuck right under that fold that I had made before, and then I can stitch it all down. Once that was done, I flipped over the binding to the front of the bag, clipped it down, then I stitched down with a zigzag stitch. And the very last step in finishing this bag is stitching down those handles. Thanks for joining me today. I really had fun making yet another project with these adding machine Scrappy strips, and I can't wait to see what we do next with adding machine tape. If you like my channel, please hit that subscribe button, and you'll get a notification of new content if you click that bell. And I hope you had a great time seeing another project, and I hope I see you back again real soon. Bye-bye.